Hi all and welcome to a new episode of Hemargroup Partner of the Month video interview. Today with us there is Umberto Bondi from USI Startup Center and Andrea Moroni Stampa. Hi all and welcome. Hi Umberto. Thank you for
Hi.
being with us today. So without further ado, as always, I would like to start with maybe a short presentation of yourself. So who you are, what you're doing at USI Startup Center, and a bit of your, professional experience and yeah, what you have reached so far.
So my name is Umberto. I'm an electronic engineer and I'm working at USI since 2000. I started working as a program manager at the Faculty of Informatics start in 2004, and we with the Allow Institute we start in 2000. And in 2004 also we started the venture of CP Startup, the first center at USI dealing with startups, and later year by year, increasing my effort in this center. In the last year, we changed the name, and we are fully a center of the university, with, of course, the mission of supporting the growing of new venture idea, new startup, and more in general, entrepreneurship inside the university and in our territory, in our canton.
Okay, thank you, Alberto. So our life spent for startups. So I think this will be the subject for today's discussion. And as always, also Andrea, I would like to ask you a short presentation for people just tuning in for this first video interview. So maybe you can just give a short presentation of who you are and also what is Hemargroup.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Saverio. Like Umberto, I'm also an electronic engineer, and we studied the same stuff. And on Umberto's side, we have the academics, the more theoretical and early practical part. And in Hemargroup, we are more in the industrialization of the product. So the startups are one of our core customers in Hemargroup, because we try and we like to help startups grow their idea from the problem through a solution up to the prototype. And this is actually the part in the Hemargroup which I lead, the R&D department. And then we want to go into production with the startups. Of course, startups have always this problem of being fast, being agile, and having the possibility to grow in a broad sense, not only from the product, but maybe also from the business model, from the business perspective, from the financial part, and all these parts concur in creating a successful startup. Many startups need an incubation or a boost in their life and their early stage life. And with Umberto, I know that this is also possible, right, Umberto? This is one of your core business. So how do you help them?
At first, we have about a little bit less than 100 application per year. So you see a lot of people is interested in startup new company. What we try to do with them at the beginning is exactly try to work with them about the problem they are addressing, they try to solve, try to figure out what is the possible solution. And on top of this, of course, we have to create together a business model. This is, let me say, a very costly process, in particular for the startupper. I think that in the majority of the cases, startups are totally newcomers. They have just an idea, they don't have experience, they have some competencies, but in general, in the initial teams, a lot of competencies are missing. In particular, when we start to speak about the solution, normally the solution is a product. And in order to have a product and to create a business on top of this product, we need to understand the proof of concept, how to deal with, go to the different steps from the prototype, from the first engineeringization, and so on. And for this, of course, we cannot do anything inside the university. We are working in particular on the initial phase, on the conceptual phase, and so on. But later, the startup have to find resources, solution, and so on, also on the territory. And they have to face also the industrial world, where the collaboration with a group like Hemargroup is start to become very interesting, in particular when the initial conceptual phase is more or less assessed, maybe can be modified. A lot of startups sooner or later are facing a pivot. That means they have to change completely business model, product, pricing, and so on. But nevertheless, they have really to understand what they are doing and what they are offering to the market. And the solution is to be viable, robust, and convincing. This is why sooner or later, all the startups have to face the industrial world, and they have to start to deal with other industrial actors present on the territory. In particular, when they want to enter in their own value chain, in their own sector, when professional skills are fundamental, and the real results are what are convincing investor and customer. So in both the case, we need that these people try to collaborate with other companies already present, in particular when some skills are missing inside the initial team of the startup.
And maybe I can add that a startup has normally very skilled people, but very few people. This is the normal case. And the skills are limited to some key areas of the product, while some other areas maybe are not covered, like, I don't know, logistics, product development, certifications, all this stuff. And in the industrial world, well, these kind of skills and competences are covered, for example, in Hemargroup. But of course, we are not the only partner available, and the startups should also try to work, as Umberto just said, with as many as possible partners, each with its own skill set, and trying to bring the idea further, and at the end trying to get on the market and trying to sell actually the product and be actually financially stable and growing if possible. Right, Saverio, what do you?
Yes, absolutely. I think that you just answered to to a question that I wanted to propose to you. So how, you know, an industrial partner and a university partner can help a startup to grow in a territory and maybe, you know, outside the territory. And I think it's very important to have both sides of the world, because obviously there are some, let's say, soft skill and competencies that a university can give absolutely to help the startup to grow. And obviously also an industrial partner has some hard skills that banally could be also the workforce, the higher workforce that is in place to help, you know, accelerate this process, but also giving some skills, as Umberto said, to, you know, augment, let's say, the skills of the founders, right? And another question that I would like also to ask to you, and maybe, you know, Andrea can start, and then Umberto, why it is so important to help and foster, you know, innovation and startups for a territory, because we speak about the territory. We are in Ticino. And I think it's really important, you know, to foster innovation. But I would like to know from your side, from your perspective, obviously industrialized and more university, why is so important really to help startups grow?
Well, this is a very good question. With for our side, very simple answer. Our business model in Hemargroup is to try to create new customers, and since it is almost impossible to get new multinational larger group on board, because they have maybe a supply chain or five different supply chains, each other complementary to each other. This is kind of impossible nowadays. Creating new customers from a startup concept, which then after the prototype maybe does a 10 pieces production, a 1,000, and then a 10,000, and then 100,000 pieces production. This is our business model, our idea of growing up together. And this can be done on the territory, in the canton, in the area, in Switzerland, Northern Italy, whatever, because the contact with the people is also very important. Nevertheless, without an academic substrate or an academic underground and pushing the innovation and trying to help from other skills needed in the startup world, like the financials, like the legals, like the academic scientific part and so on, this would not be possible. So from our side, yes, we try to help the startups also financially and also in a real world and with real parts, trying to push them and grow with them during the development phase, but also in the early and later production stage. The collaboration, is it on the public relation part or in some real life example with the USI Startup Center is very valuable. And I think Umberto can also make a comment on this, so on the startup underground that is happening in our territory.
Okay, I think that the startup normally is bringing something new, some novelty in the market. They try to do that. And we hope all the time to find something that is really disruptive. Also, incremental innovation is fine. But on top of the new idea, on the new concept, you have also to find a way for having a business exploitation. That means we have to check all the idea. Some ideas are created inside the university by university people like students, researchers, and so on. Other ideas are coming from the territory and can be analyzed and let me say, try well understood and so on with the help of the USI and SUPSI researchers. But sooner or later, you have also to look at the real exploitation. It means, as Andrea was saying, we need to conceive a real production of a lot of components, a lot of pieces. And for this issue, for the startup, it's very important to find partners that know the vertical, they know the sector, they know how it's working. For instance, all the startup, think about mechatronic, mechanics, sometimes also informatics. They have a clear idea about how to defend the intellectual property with patent, design, and so on. But the issue of certification, for instance, is all the time neglected. And for certified product, you need experience, you need people, you need skills, and the process itself is quite costly, in particular for the startup. Working with an industrial partner for resolving this issue is really fundamental, also for avoiding mistakes. Exactly like, as Andrea was mentioning, legal and management or marketing issue. You can study, you can conceive new way for marketing new people or new product, but sooner or later you have to go really in the market and understanding the dynamics inside each vertical. In particular, when you have an international view about your product and you expect to sell your product in Europe or worldwide, in this case, you need really a big effort in planning this action in the proper way with the proper strategy. So this is very important that you have behind you an academic preparation, just to understand exactly the basic concept, but also collaboration with the territory and the local actor. They already are experimenting such a kind of effort. In this way, startup can grow, but normally a startup or better a scale up cannot grow alone. They need a complete ecosystem around them. Ecosystem that is including public support, private support, funding, industrial collaboration, and the capability of creating commercial agreement or at least a commercial collaboration in different sectors.
Okay, thank you, Umberto. I think it was really a very good answer, both from you and Andrea. Very dense, information and advices for all the startups founders that are viewing this. They will view this video, and I think we are coming to the end of our interview. So as always, I would like to ask you both an advice, special advice for our viewers. What do you think is very important? I guess it will be on Startups Live, right? And so please, Roberto, maybe you are the first. You can be the first to answer.
If an entrepreneur or a person, they have an idea and they think that an idea can have a business exploitation, the first issue is that they have to talk with somebody in order to have kind of feedback, comparison with other situation, and so on. All the time there is the problem of defending their own intellectual property, the idea, and so on. So for this issue, there are legal instruments like patent, but you have also to keep in contact with professional, with center or company or academia. They are professional in this work, they have experience in this work, and they can suggest how to deal with your idea. And you should be confident that for a professional, they never will speak about your idea with a third party without a clear motivation and without the permission of the inventor. So for this issue, I really encourage everybody with new idea to contact the different innovation center present on the territory. All such a center, private or public, are more or less in the same network. We are in the same ecosystem. Either we speak about the canton or the entire Switzerland, the entire country. All the key people is more or less connected. And the key message, you are not alone, and trust the professional working in such an ecosystem.
Thank you, Umberto. Andrea, what's your personal advice for founders?
Well, I can rely on what Umberto just said. Just ask your neighbors. Try to find the right partners, and in the academic or the industrial world and the financial world, because it's not only about the money. Of course, this is a big important part, but it's also about the network, about people having done the same mistakes before you, and trying maybe to help you out on situations which maybe you can jump or avoid, and also having the trust to ask those people. In Switzerland, we are very well covered, also with the InnoSwiss projects, with the Startup Center, of course, with other academic institutes. And there is always a good willingness to help young entrepreneurs, or even not so young entrepreneurs, but new entrepreneurs enter the market and trying to give a value or an added value to our territory, and trying to make the next industrial unicorn maybe have a life. And even if it is not a unicorn, but is a well-riding horse, it's more than enough sometimes. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you, Andrea. So this is really the end of our interview. As always, if you are startups, you can find all the information, and if you're looking for help or you're just curious, all the contacts are in the description of the video below. And I would like to personally thank you, Umberto and Andrea, for your time. I hope you enjoyed this short interview, and see you next time with the next Partner of the Month video interview. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.